footnoted at the International Labour Conference because it has buttressed our resolve to negotiate. That is what we expect. We are aware that you people have shown that you have zero tolerance to corruption. And we are aware leakage of 700 because of corruption. Our pledge is attached, and we have seen you everywhere saying that when it comes to work, you don't laugh and nikazi. We are sure that you are going to be up to the task because the 700 billion which goes to forming education. The immediate resumption of CBA negotiations. This is something very serious to teachers. My brother is leaving this place to go and join the employer at the Naivasa resort to jumpstart these negotiations. But we know, without the goodwill of government, these negotiations will come to naught. It is our prayer that the 4 years that has been given to us as the cycle of negotiations are not in conformity with the best practices the world over. So we are supporting Azimio because we know you will stand with us and you have always stood with us. This is the direction that we are trying to ask, that as you go, please ensure that teachers form part and parcel of the thinking of the new government. Azimio's pledge should be made here in Kiambu, where momentous decisions were made that shaped the future of Kenya. To Our Excellency, I wish to remind you that Kenyan workers are looking to you personally to protect our hard-earned gains. You remember that you walked out of the other government because you wanted to protect the freedoms that Kenyans now enjoy. As a deputy president and as a minister for justice and constitutional issues, teachers are only safe in your hands. Azimio! Azimio! Thank you so much. In the same way, your nomination, you have realized, inspired millions of young women throughout this land. I was so excited. The chair lady of Kiambu, Kupet, accompanied us to Bangkok in 2019 to attend the teachers' conference. And one thing which we noticed is she stood firm. And even Baradoyo, she's the one who asked the question why Sosion could not reach the ballot. The Kikuyu ladies, let me use the word, are very assertive. I would want to urge you, use your power, because Rose has told us, to propel these two leaders to leadership. I'm convinced. I saw men very cold in this room, but I'm not deterred because you will push them along to see your mindset. Because what you are seeing, they may not have known where it is taking us. Colleagues, I don't think I have much. It is my humble prayer that as my brother Oyu has indicated, that you must make this one your project. As people in the trade union, we have experience with these people who are looking for leadership in government. We know the people who are for workers, the people who are for teachers. Just some few years, about 1.5 years, you saw how Kenya National Union of Teachers suffered. Do you know why? Some of the people who are looking for this leadership That's why our resolve must be for the reform agenda, which High Excellency Martha and Engineer Raila stand for. That is the reason for which we have come here this morning. Allow me to say that we will not rest on our laurels after you win. We will put you on your toes. For the purpose, we need a firm commitment today that they are at the center of. We want our autonomy to discuss our issues. What we also want to be at the table to make decisions on our own education. And that is the reason for which the teachers resolved to support the current government reforms to reform education to competency-based curriculum. We know others are having the wishful thinking that they can initiate certain reforms. Why were we thinking so? The 21st century environment requires people who are alert, people who can use the IT platform, the people who do not accept wastage in education, the people who are open to doing business are even from home. That is, colleagues, that is where we are. And I hope High Excellency Martha and her principal, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, are the people who represent this vision. With those many remarks, allow me to now have the single pleasure on behalf of the Kenyan teachers, and especially who are represented here from the Mount Kenya region, to pass this baton to my colleague. But before I do that, our national treasurer, who is also a candidate in Kiambu Kabete constituency, is supposed to be here. But he's indisposed, and but he's now doing well. He could have been here. Genga Mwedi. We got surprised that he was not here in time, but he is sick, but we have been given report that he's doing well. May God bless you. Your Excellency, could you now address the teachers? Thank you.
You can hear me at the back. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome, and also for the sacrifices you have made to be here this morning. And I'm surprised you're from such far corners, both near and far, and you all made it in time. I know it's I know it's I don't think it's improving. Is that okay now? I know it's nothing short of a sacrifice to be here at this time, and I know you have traveled from far and wide. I should begin by apologizing. I didn't keep time, but I've found that I'm able to make it, but not as on time as I normally am, because our bodies also do get exhausted. But thank God, every morning after sleeping, I have enough energy for the next day. So I want to thank God for that, because without good health, we can't be here. I think I need to an early disclosure that I've actually taught. I am a teacher, though untrained one. So I'm not only the daughter of teachers, because both my mom and dad taught. My mom, for a very short time, those days, women used to be encouraged to quit when they have children. So after my mom had my elder sister and myself, she quit teaching. But my dad remained a teacher until he retired. And I joined them after Form 4 because I worked as an untrained teacher for 3 months. And after A-levels, for about 4 months, before joining university, I was a teacher. Then I went for clerical work at the court, I think in preparation of the lawyering duties. So we do have something in common, and teachers and women have something in common. Women raise their families, and then they hand them over to teachers in our schools, and the teachers raise the nation. So you do play a very critical role. You are the professionals that are to be found in every corner of our country. Where there is no other professional, there will be a teacher. And your voice in the community is very strong. When people cannot quite understand something, they will be asking each other, have you asked teacher so-and-so? So you do carry a lot of weight in everything that goes on in our country. And that is what we should remember when engaging teachers, that we are engaging a very enlightened group of people. Therefore, we should never be talking down. We should be engaging and hearing your views so that we are able to serve you. I also believe that you cannot serve people without being close to them, without listening to them, and incorporating their views on what should happen. After all, in matters of education, you are the experts, and it is your ideas and advice we as a country and we as Azimio should be relying on. I want to thank your officials and the doctors, Secretary General, because they're the ones who were the link to reaching you, and you are the link to reaching all the teachers in this country and all the doctors, because now the Doctors SG is with us here. I want to again apologize because this is going to be a very brief engagement, not because we do not value you. I've told you personally how strongly I'm linked to you, apart from having been educated by teachers in the schools, in university. I also have that background of being a product of teachers as a family and of having myself taught at the various stages. In fact, if I had not become a lawyer, the next thing I would have become is a teacher. Yeah. My father would have really wanted that at that time. His strong advice was that I should choose teaching as a first choice. He believed that as a female, I will need the 3 months holiday to bring my family together. Actually, his advice was that as a homemaker, I should enjoy the 3 months holiday every year. And he also thought mistakenly that time that lawyers travel a lot. He thought I could be posted out of the country because there is a teacher who was attached, not a teacher, a lawyer who was attached to an embassy. And I assured him that in any profession people can travel, and I needed to put my choices as I saw them, and he released me to do that. So we are here to assure you as Azimio that we will remain close to you. We will be listening to you. And as you have requested, I personally undertake to be your point of reference in the Azimio government. That if anything is not moving as fast as it should, I will be ready to engage you. After all, my role is to assist my principal. And while he's handling national duties, any issue that should be attended to, I will gladly undertake. I've been using your profession a lot as an example. I've been saying no school can have 2 heads, only one, and a deputy. The deputy may at a different time be promoted to become a head, but in a different school. And therefore, you are people who know the chain of command. Even in your unions, you cannot have 2 heads. You will have one SG, one chair, even in the branches the same. So the discipline of actually following the chain of command is already with the teachers. And I'm saying we should remember, therefore, that a country can only have one president, not a co-presidency. So my role as a deputy will not be to be a co-president with my principal. My role will be to be his principal assistant. Because once you accept to be a deputy, you have accepted the role to deputize. If you feel you cannot deputize, then go for the real thing and do it yourself. And if you are a deputy and you cannot wait for your turn, and you undermine your boss actively and continuously, then we are allowed and justified to raise the question whether you can actually be a good principal. Because if you cannot work with others, if you cannot listen to others, then it means you will be going according to what you think only, not what others think. Even when we had companies, ministries, schools, you always succeed when you agree to be a team leader who listens to those around you. Then the collective wisdom becomes the guiding light for what you are doing. So we are looking forward, God willing, and you teachers and the nation willing, to play our role and to be true to the Constitution. These days, engagement is not a luxury. It is actually ordained in the Constitution that you have to have participation, public participation. If we are dealing with teachers, then you reduce that to engagement with the teachers and the teachers participating in everything that concerns them, every decision that affects them, and the area they lead, which is education. So we will be doing exactly that. It's our duty. It's not a favor. It's in the Constitution. And that's why you have seen so many laws, so many actions of government being reversed, because it's a learning process. We were for so long in a dictatorship, if you like, or authoritarian leadership, that even those of us who have grown in it are sometimes chest thumping and saying, I will not tolerate. It's not you, it is what we have collectively agreed. Our Constitution does not tolerate. So when we are saying zero tolerance to corruption, it's not just because we don't like it ourselves. It's also because it's a duty under the Constitution to behave in a certain way. The principles, the guiding values and principles are in the Constitution, are in Article 10. They include public participation, they include the qualities of leadership, and again, Chapter 6 goes on qualities. What are we looking for this time? Our nation has the resources. They've always been there. It's not that they have come. We have a very qualified human resource reservoir in this country. Thanks to you teachers at all the levels that you are teaching, including in the universities. So we have resources, both human and otherwise. We are a rich country, just in case you didn't know, and I know you do. We have been looting our country. When I say we, it's the collective, because those who do it are fellow Kenyans. We have almost with zeal been destroying our country. It's still standing up. That should tell you that this is a strong country which has resources, which well managed, each sector will be well looked after. The 800 or so billion that is lost annually is an estimate. I believe it is more, because we lose through corruption, outright theft, and also through abuse of those resources. We are promising you good governance, better leadership, And we are promising you that all the resources will be safeguarded and put to our use. We know we are debt. We have heavy debts. But those debts are not a deterrence. If we seal the loopholes, we will not only pay the debts, but we will also develop and meet the needs of the various sectors, including teachers. And we are at liberty to negotiate with our lenders to restructure. We cannot just be paying debts. We have to pay debts and continue to progress. So a combined effort, a multi-pronged approach to get us where we are going. So I want to assure you, we are equal to the task, and I always remind people, during the NAC regime, 202, 203, we arrived in government to find an empty granary, and we knew it. It did not deter our late President Mwai Kibaki from declaring free primary, even before he was sworn in. Because I remember he declared the free primary when he was in Muthaiga, before the swearing. That was on the 30th or 31st, and the press was there. And a young child asked him whether he would stick to the pledge. He said yes. We didn't have money. It's the courage of conviction and courage of our ability to marshal the resources of the nation. Because just like today, there was a lot of pilferage of public resources. Today, what is different is that Kenya has gotten bigger, the economy has gotten bigger, we are richer, the basket from which people are stealing is bigger. The sums are mind-boggling, you know. And if you look at us, those who are in leadership, you'll see quite a number having a lot of money and are actual millionaires, billionaires, not millionaires. Millionaires now, that is common. We're talking of billionaires. And if you check what business a person has been doing to have such money, there isn't. So a serious lifestyle audit would reveal that you have been a blood-sucking leech on Kenyans, on the backs of Kenyans. We will have to have a conversation because there are so many affected, not only politicians, people trading with government, people in authority in various government places. We've been a mess. But we shall be able to reason together and find the best way forward. Other nations have been in the place we have been. They have gotten out. Even in 2003, we actually got out for a period. And when corruption came back, the people also gave up. Because to win war on corruption, we need the people. To drive a point home, we need the people. May I, as I accept your requests, also make a call to you. I have said how authoritative, and you already know, you are in your areas, in your sphere of influence. In a nation, the teachers can actually be that revolution. I want to make an ask. It's our nation. It's you and me who will build it. Nobody else will. And I always give an example of the Western nations. In the last century, they were a miserable lot, dying of famine. You remember the potato famine in UK, dying of disease and lack of hygiene. There were days they used in winter months to throw out the human waste from the windows to litter the streets because you can't go out, it's very cold. And they had not invented the flush toilets. But today, things have changed because they are nationals, not the entire nation. The leadership got together, sat down. They also listened to one another. Not everybody invented the contraptions we see, those flushing toilets. But if you listen to each other, you will be able to tap talent because every nation has a reservoir of talent in its people. But if we are not listening to each other, things that could propel us to become a world power will be lost. So I'm urging you to consider us seriously as Azimio, because we are ready to listen. We'll be team players. We've been there before. We were there in the Kibaki government. And it's two governments. The past government, and after the post-election violence, in spite of a few hitches here and there when consultation was forgotten and it had to be reasserted and returned, even after I left government, they were able to work together. The complaints of no consultation are not bad. It's just a wake-up call. They used to sit. We never had them discussing. They would sit back room and we would see the work going on. So I'm not saying that an ideal government is where you think alike. There's no world like that. Even in our families, even in identical twins, we have different views on various issues. But we harmonize those views and then we move together. Teachers are the ones who teach children discipline. You are therefore, you bear responsibility in how disciplined our nation will be. We must reinforce it in the generation we are mentoring now, that respect is a necessary ingredient for a society, for families and communities to move forward. Without respect, we will be the Tower of Babel, and I think we have seen it in the nation. We have seen flashes of what can be. If we cannot humble ourselves and listen to one another, then we will not have a nation. So I'm urging you to remind us at every opportunity as a nation that respect must always be there. There is nobody who teaches their children to just go about kama mkosa adabu. So even in leadership, what qualities are we looking in leaders? We are looking for integrity, which covers everything. It covers trustworthiness, it covers respect, it covers the human touch, being mindful of the rights of others, and it also covers the sense of community. Even a school is a community. So we have to look out for each other's back. It also speaks to looking out for the weak in society. And that is why a Baba administration will think of the vulnerable and will actually have a social protection program for the already identified 2,000, identified by our census, not politically, 2,000 households who are living below the poverty line. Those families will be supported with a social support stipend per month of 6,000 shillings, which can at least buy them food, if nothing else. As a family, if you are very endowed or even just average, you will not stand to see your sister or brother's family starving. That is why people will educate their brothers, their cousins, people will educate the family, feed each other, and even take each other to hospital. As a nation, we do the same. Imagine the many harambes you attend for disease and for school fees, for weddings. We don't let families, even when they have money, have weddings or burials alone. We always move together. That is the idea of social support, which is in our constitution in Article 43, that the government must ensure Kenyans have the basic needs. Basic needs are health, education, shelter, other things like water, the real basics of life, and food. We have plans to ensure that we feed ourselves as a nation. We have enough arable land. We are water scarce, but with efficiency, we can use that very water to ensure we feed ourselves and we even export. And I keep giving the example of Egypt and Israel. Those are virtual deserts. Egypt, the arable land is only 4% of the land mass. and that's basically on the banks of River Nile. Israel can go for spells of several years without rain, without significant rainfall. But they have learned how to use their water resource. They recycle, they do smart farming with drip irrigation. And guess what? We are eating oranges exported from Israel, from deserts. They are not hungry. There used to be famine in Egypt, and it's in the Bible. We have not had them going through any famine. Instead, they export sugar and other commodities, and rice actually, to us. What a shame when we have all this human resource. And when I point at you, what about the millions you teach? We actually have enough knowledge to be able to do what we want. So I want to ask you to join us. And you already have indicated your willingness so that we can make this nation a nation that is the envy of many. On health, Babacare will ensure everybody is catered for. Babacare is not NHIF. It is more than NHIF. NHIF, those who can't pay are left out. Babacare, those who can't pay, the state will pay. Tumalizane na story ya pesa kwa hospitali ya umma. We are also going to make sure we have enough doctors. So please tell the doctors, we have trained doctors, we have trained teachers who cannot get jobs. Yet we do not have enough teachers, we do not have enough doctors in our facilities. We are going to ensure that there are enough teachers in the classrooms. We have actually pledged to employ all the qualified teachers who are unemployed, and we will be able to roll out how we do that. We will need all our doctors so that that dispensary near you, that sub-district, sub-county or county referral hospital must have enough specialists. And where we do not have enough trained manpower, because there are some specialists who are just few, like 20, like under 100 in the country, we should be able, using technology, to have counties share the available resource. You pair or triple counties and let them use the same people. I visited Makueni sometimes last year, and I was pleasantly surprised to find they had almost all the experts needed, not employed by the national government, employed by the county of Makueni. I found things running very well, to the extent that my friend, Professor Kibuda Kibwana, underwent a surgical procedure in Makueni and got admitted there last year. That's the confidence we want. If you go to UK today, the best health service is in the national health hospitals. We must make our public facilities the mark of excellence to be emulated by even the private. And it is possible. As I grew up, and those of my age know, the best medical services were from the public facilities. The best schools were public schools. We are products of public school. Yes. If we are not the mark of excellence, then you are consigning the entire country to misery. Because a majority cannot afford private. They cannot afford private hospitals or private schools. So I am asking you to join us. It will be a long journey, and not everything may come on time the way we want it when you're stretching resources. But I know what matters is that we engage you, you know where we are, we make commitments together, and we move together. This is our nation, and we are going to make it the nation we want to live in. I want to just say this as I end. We are seeking your votes not because we are perfect. We are imperfect as human beings are. Only God is perfect. But we do try. And what is required, even when you seek a job, is to show your CV that I've been in these spaces and this is what I have done. And I think we have said so repeatedly. My boss, my captain, Raila Amolo Odinga, was Minister for Roads when NAC government came in. You all know what was the state of our roads. He started a program of repairing, building new roads and plans for the future, to the extent that you're seeing superhighways, and at least one was done during his tenure, during the Grand Coalition, the Thika Superhighway. Therefore, you can see the results of his work. And that is why the AU has him as their advisor on infrastructure matters. So you already know that here is a captain who is committed to the country. He has been committed throughout. He lives and dreams a better Kenya. And even when we have had problems, even when he has had problems of following the vote, he has humbled himself, agreed to sit down so that our nation does not disintegrate. And there are examples in 2007 and 2017. And even 2002, endorsing Mwai Kibaki. If everybody had become a presidential candidate, we would not have been able to have the transformative government that came in. So stepping back and saying somebody else lead is also a sacrifice. And we are urging you to also scrutinize our competition and see whether you will see similar traits, whether you will see something to write home about where people have had positions of responsibility and power. It is not my duty to tell you about anybody else's CV. You are Kenyans, you live here. Interrogate that question. I will not say what I've done, but I'll tell you that I know you know that I do my work. I do not know how not to give my all. When I'm committed to something, I just go. And it's not something I can change. Maybe growing up in up country in small farms where you do many things in the day, I don't know how to sit idle. Whether I'm employed or not, I will do what requires to be done. Na mmesikia sauti yangu, hata hiyo miaka 10 nimekuwa nje. So we are people who work, and that is the point where I and my principal are very much alike. So I'm urging you to help the nation make wise choices, looking at the relevant qualities, and I am sure that the conclusion will be not anything else but Azimio. Yes. Lastly, we don't want just to win. Our prayer is that we win so overwhelmingly that it is uncontested. Yes. This country, we have to free ourselves from contested elections. Yes. We did so once in 2002. Yes. My prayer, let us reason together. Get it right this time. Let the difference be so big, and we have enough time. Those odd 4 weeks or less than 4 weeks remaining, your influence in every corner matters. I have another ask related to the integrity of elections. A lot of teachers are the presiding and returning officers. Please don't listen to anyone from whichever side asking you to corrupt the process. Be true. And I want to remind you very vividly what we saw in the last American election. A president calling a Secretary of State in a state which was held by his party, a Republican Secretary of State in the state of Georgia, called by the then President Trump, telling the person, because it was taped and some of you might have listened to it, to find him some 11,000 votes from wherever, so that he can emerge the winner in that state. And the man who was a supporter telling him very calmly, Mr. President, I've got a job to do. So he's reminding him that under the Constitution he has a job to do. In very few words, telling him what you're asking is not possible. And it did not become possible. The officer stood by his country, because this is standing up for your country. So I want this message to all presiding, returning officers, counting clerks, everybody in that chain, every police officer, every one of us involved in the electoral chain. Let us stand up for Kenya. The short-term gain, because those who ask you to corrupt will come and do 1, 2, 3. Utakula hiyo na utasahau na hautasaidika. It is better when we have a working state, a functional state, with good health services, public health services, good public education, good public systems, a going concern. Imagine as a teacher the many relatives who come to you for help. Help you are not capable of giving. You attempt, you impoverish your family, and the person may not end up being assisted, because by the time they come, it may be too late. How nice it would be if all of us were freed from suffering with our friends and relatives when wakifika mahali ya mwisho on education and on health. How happy would we be if sometimes, even like the way you came today, you didn't have to drive at night? If we had a good public transport system, you'd have been boarding a train or some other transport which is easily accessible. That is the country we want to build, and it is up to us. I want to urge you, finally, because we must finish this, and I will disclose to you that although I'm supposed to join my principal in Kiambu, I'll be heading to Kirinyaga first. But only with permission, sio kwa kifua, for only a short moment to open a meeting of women of the AIPCA church, which is having 3,000 women. So I'll go open it and then come back to Kiambu, trying to be on time. I just want you to know that we stretch the hours of the day. We work early mornings, go to those meetings, and work again in the night. Because if you cannot meet people during the day, you'll also meet them in the evening. To just bear with us, and to hope that the next discussion I sit with you, you will have given me that residence come office at Karen. So that discussion will be held not in a hotel but in your premises, because that's a public place. Yes. It's a public place for public agenda, especially transformative agenda. I may not have answered everything, but generally I'm telling you, we are ready, able, and willing. And together with you, because we can't do it alone, we are going to do each one of these things. Now, one more thing, because I must repeat what my principal says. At independence, we were fighting ignorance, poverty, and disease. Imagine instead of conquering those, we have added one more. Now the fourth, corruption. You know? So our commitment is to fight those four. And we have said education is going to be absolutely without payment in public schools from January next year. That will be from nursery to university. And then the health service, I've already said Babacare. I will not break down everything. But there will be jobs, jobs and jobs in agriculture, in value addition. Our youth are going to get jobs. If you wonder how we will finance them, I will tell you that Cuba is not a superpower in terms of money. Cuba is a superpower in terms of human resource. I visited them a long time ago when I was Minister for Justice. Their infrastructure, the roads, were getting worn out because they were living under blockade. You remember that time? So the economy wasn't doing very well. But two things were still standing: education and health. And in Cuba, education and health, it is cradle to grave. Yani, shosh, kama mimi anaweza ingia shule, you can join the university. I could now have gone to do a PhD on state resource. So those who think it is not possible, these are well-researched things we are giving you. It is possible, and we are going to do it, but not alone. With you, and I thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Police, after listening to such various and informative, every articulated message from Her Excellency the Deputy President, I will now wish, because this is your meeting, to hand over back to the sessional chair to maybe get two feedbacks. Her Excellency has told you how committed she is, but this is your meeting, maybe you have got some few petitions. Sorry.